Imagine you are a Texan. It is the tail end of winter. You're in mid February. You have not seen much snow in your life. Barely any. If you get snow, very thin layer. You can see the grass sticking up through it. But this year's different. Wake up one morning. There's tons of snow outside. It looks like a white Christmas. Maybe you go out, maybe you play around in a little bit, make a snowman. Eventually you get cold, go inside. Maybe curl up with some hot chocolate, gonna watch a movie or something. It's a snow day. You don't get much of those. And then the power goes out. Oh, the weather outside is frightful, but the fire is so delightful. Since we no place to go, let it snow. It doesn't show signs of stopping, and our bonds support from popping. The lights are too late to low. Let it snow. Winter Storm Uri, also known as the Snowpocalypse to people who are cool. It was a storm in 2021, Valentine's Day weekend. On the Wednesday before Valentine's Day, there started a cold front edging in on Texas. And by the time of Valentine's Day on Sunday, the entire state was under a winter storm warning. There was snow on the roads. Nobody could drive anywhere. People's water was freezing up. They couldn't get any water. People had to take ice from their backyards, put it in the tub, melt it so they could flush their toilets. But the thing we're going to be focusing on today is the power outages and what that means about the state of Texas power grid. So, when Winter Storm Uri happened, there were over 10 million people left in the dark through blackouts. Now, what this means? Well, what this resulted in was that 57 people died from power outages. Power outages, not from a car crash on the road because it was icy, from the power outages. And there was $195 billion spent on property damage because of these power outages. Now, why was this? Why is it that, other states, they can handle snow, but Texas, gets a little bit of snow and power grid shuts down? Well, we have to go through some history to understand that. So, first of all, the thing that's unique about the Texas power grid is that it is the only state, excluding Alaska and Hawaii for obvious reasons, it is the only state that is not connected to other states through a power grid. Most states are either on the Western Interconnect or the Eastern Interconnect. Texas is the only state that is not connected to any other states with their power. So why is this? I have to go back to very early 20th century. This is when people started actually viewing power, electricity, more as something that they had a right to have instead of something that was a newfangled technology. And so in around 1905, a lot of states began regulating power companies, making sure they weren't mistreating the citizens of the states too badly. Texas is one of the people that did not do that. A few decades later, 1935, FDR signs the Public Utility Holding Company Act. This is to regulate power companies across the entire country, including the states that hadn't, done any regulations previously. Break up monopolies, stop them from mistreating the citizens. However, there was one exception to this. The Public Utility Holding Company Act only applied to interstate power. This doesn't mean anything for most states. Most states either do not produce enough electricity to sustain their own population, or they produce a high enough surplus of energy that it would be an absolute waste of money not to sell it to the other states to help them out. Texas, Texas is the only state that is able to sustain its own power grid and doesn't have a huge surplus. So there comes ERCOT, the Electricity Reliability Council of Texas. There are a few things that you need to know about ERCOT. 90% of the state relies upon. First of all, ERCOT does not produce any of its own power. ERCOT buys from private companies in Texas to produce power. Now, what's the problem with this? Well, that is so hard to regulate. There's no centralized power there. So it is extremely hard to have a tight grasp control of this power grid. Second problem, over half of the energy produced by ERCOT, well, by the companies ERCOT buys from, are natural gas. The problem with natural gas is that it runs on electricity. So you put electricity into a natural gas power plant, and a natural gas power plant puts out more electricity. Most of our natural gas plants, very old, mid 20th century old. Now, the problem with that, very fragile, very prone to breaking down, especially during extreme temperatures. Fourth, Texas is an energy-only market. What an energy-only market means is that the companies that ERCOT buys from are paid for the energy that they provide to customers, to the citizens. They do not get paid for producing a backup power storage, meaning there is no backup power storage. And, like I said, so that ERCOT can be a thing, Texas has no interstate connections. Now, the problem with this is that if, say, for instance, hypothetically, if there were a big winter storm to sweep across the state and all of the power plants went down, other states, they can be like, hey, neighboring state, can I get some more energy from you? Texas cannot do that. If Texas gets in a freeze, now their power plants are working, nothing they can do. So, what happened during Uri? Well, the electricity usage far surpassed the predicted amount. Everyone is snowed in, can't go anywhere. It's super cold outside. Every single person's using their heater. They're using their lights. And then the natural gas and the wind turbines freeze up. A lot of power plants just stop working because of the extreme cold. We can also see this happening in extreme heat waves in Texas. Natural gas plants cannot withstand extreme cold or extreme heat. And then Texas can't get any electricity from other states to help them out in this extreme situation. Finally, the final nail in the coffin. So, you don't have enough energy to sustain every single person living in your state. What do? Well, you don't want everyone to lose power all at once. So, you say, okay, so we don't destabilize the grid. We're going to institute rolling blackouts, power cuts to just specific parts of the state. And those are just going to go across the state. Once one area gets the blackout instituted, another area will get the power back. Problem is that they forgot that these areas had natural gas power plants in them. So, you cut the power to a natural gas power plant. It doesn't produce power anymore. More power cuts are needed. You cut the power to more places. Those more places have natural gas power plants in them because there's so many in the state. And so those power plants shut down. So now they're losing power. And so more cuts are needed because there's less energy being produced. And then more lose power, and then more cuts are needed, and so on and so forth. In this doom loop of energy, of losing energy. So, have things improved since then? This was 3 years ago. Well, Kind of. 1,800 weathering inspections have occurred since Winter Storm Uri. And power outages just this last January in Winter Storm Heather, half as much as in December 2022 Winter Storm Elliott. But neither of those storms were anywhere near as extreme as Winter Storm Uri. All right, so we don't really know how they would have performed if it was as extreme of a storm as Uri. And the grid is still super over reliant on natural gas. Still, the majority of the power comes from just natural gas, which is very prone to falling apart in extreme weather conditions, in extreme heat or extreme cold. Contrast that to something like a nuclear power plant or solar panels. Those places, those are more reliable than a natural gas when it comes to extreme weathers. And we're still an energy only market. We still don't have very much backup energy around. So yes, we have improved the things we've had, but we have not patched up the glaring holes in our system, which means the next time that there's a storm as extreme as Winter Storm Uri, the lights could go out. Thank you for watching.